Today, one of F1's greatest might find it hard to get himself into the game. After being informed by McLaren that he would be fired at the end of the year, Ricciardo's F1 future remains uncertain. In the long run, he appears destined to leave the circuit for at least one season. But then, let's look at the odds of him getting a chance in the driver's seat. After the 4-year break, Daniel Ricciardo was not the same Formula One driver we all know. And that's not in a good way. The fact that Ricciardo had struggled on the Red Bull simulator earlier this year was unofficial but widely acknowledged in the F1 paddock. Some years at McLaren had quite a detrimental effect. It wasn't until the Australian Grand Prix weekend earlier this month that this was properly acknowledged. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner effectively revealed that Ricciardo had returned in a condensed version. This is after he was asked how much rebuilding Red Bull had to do with Ricciardo after his McLaren spell. Due to his poor on-track performance, Ricciardo's contract with McLaren was cut short by 1 year during the summer. He finished 85 points down on teammate Lando Norris with 0 wins and podiums. As a result, the team signed fellow Australian Oscar Piastri to take his place in 2023. With the admission that he won't be in the starting lineup in 2023, Ricciardo has all but ruled himself out of competing for the remaining race spot at Haas. At this point, he seems to desire a reserve driver position instead, so he may be involved in the sport and have a chance to race again in 2024. This means he is well positioned to secure a reserve position at one of the top teams, which has fueled numerous speculations. Although no agreements have been made, it would be appropriate for the Australian to accept a return to the team for which he raced for 5 seasons. Today, he is left without a regular spot on the grid for the upcoming season after his departure from McLaren was officially announced. But in 2024, Ricciardo will have to join an elite squad. Nothing more or less. He won't simply be sitting behind the wheel of any F1 car when he returns to the grid. Daniel claimed he no longer wanted to struggle in the 18th spot. In 2024, he might return to the grid, but not for an average club. At the Australian GP, the Australian made his first public appearance of the year. He claimed that taking a year off from Formula One had allowed him to think more clearly. He has been able to find out what he desires and what he does not want. He even claimed that his time off the grid had just fueled his desire and ambition to get back on it. He wants it more than ever right now. Next year, it will undoubtedly be challenging for him to join a top squad right away, and Daniel is aware of this. Now, Ricciardo must constantly compete for at least the top 6 positions. No doubt about it. He seeks to handle the role perfectly. He is relieved that he no longer has to deal with as many driver-related issues, but he misses them. Hopefully he can do it again the following year, but given that his previous experience with a top team didn't go as expected, joining one this time around will be even more difficult. Yes, McLaren has fallen from its former heights, but it is still a top team, and Daniel's tenure there was nothing short of an awful experience. It was only after he won the Italian GP in 2021 that he managed to finish 3rd in the squad. Later on, he only managed to place 9th in the standings in his first season with the squad, scoring 115 points. Both Ricciardo and the McLaren executives believe that in his second year he would find his stride. It was completely the opposite of what happened. It even became worse during his second season with the squad. Lando Norris, another member of his team, was always outperforming him. Eventually, the group decided to inform him that his contract will expire at the end of the calendar year. The fact that they broke the news to him in the middle of 2022 was all messy. Although it was stated that the two parties had opted to dissolve the contract mutually, it is still very hard to believe. Ricciardo finished the 2022 season with only 37 points, ending in 11th place overall. Now, Oscar Piastri was chosen by McLaren to replace the 33-year-old. A few teams, including Haas F1, tried to sign Ricciardo, but were unsuccessful due to his high salary demands and refusal to join a lower-tier team. Now that Ricciardo has fulfilled his obligation by declaring his availability for the following year, do you think there is any room on the Ferrari grid for him? It appears that his wish to play for a top team won't come true the following season because those teams are already occupied. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are under contract with the Scuderia through the end of 2024, and the group plans to make a long-term investment in both players. Ferrari is now out of the race, and Aston Martin has now emerged as the team most likely to win this season. it is unlikely that a seat will be open for Ricciardo in 2024, even though it would have been a wonderful team for him. The squad has a 2-year contract with the Spanish starlet Fernando Alonso, therefore he won't be leaving for another team. We should be aware by this point that there will only ever be one open seat at Aston Martin, because the second seat is permanently taken. Since Lance Stroll is the boss's son, he is entitled to utilize that seat for as long as he likes. Everything now hinges on Mercedes. Although the length of George Russell's contract is still unknown, it is undoubtedly long-term. However, Lewis Hamilton's contract will expire after this year. Ricciardo might benefit from it the following year. Hamilton has repeatedly stated that he has no plans to retire anytime soon, so this one also looks difficult. The 7-time world champion is someone else who Mercedes does not want to lose. Ricciardo was a candidate for Alpine as Alonso's replacement, but Pierre Gasly was chosen instead. Thus, neither of these two teams is even remotely a possibility. AlphaTauri, a Red Bull sister team, is now left behind. They did speak with Daniel about a possible switch, but it won't go place anytime soon. Although AlphaTauri is a fine team, it falls far short of Ricciardo's expectations. This team only concentrates on recruiting and developing new drivers for the future. Therefore, if they hired Daniel, their entire plan would be upset. But there is still a high tendency for him to make a big move back to Red Bull. From 2014 through 2018, Ricciardo was a Red Bull driver. He started racing in 2011 with the help of the company's junior driver program. Ricciardo has appeared ready for a new challenge after just over 10 years in Formula One. He claims the non-grid position with Red Bull will give him time to recharge and refocus, while also assisting with testing, simulator, and business dealings. The Australian claimed during the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix weekend that he preferred to compete for a year without interruption by signing on to be Red Bull's 3rd Formula One driver for the next season. He thinks that taking a break from the demanding nature of a racing season will also help him determine whether he had the will to compete again in 2024. When Ricciardo joins Red Bull, he will be reunited with the team that he represented while in the junior ranks. In 2012, Ricciardo joined Toro Rosso, Red Bull's F1B team, after spending half a season with the backmarker HRT team in 2011. In 2014, Ricciardo succeeded Mark Webber as the senior team. In their lone season with Red Bull, Ricciardo outperformed Sebastian Vettel, then the current world champion. He remained in place for 4 races of the 2016 season until being replaced by Max Verstappen. Above all, Ricciardo might get a chance to prove himself once again. According to Horner, the veteran has been enjoying the RB19 in the simulator. While Ricciardo seems emphatic that he will only return in a competitive car, it seems exceedingly improbable that a seat would open up at Red Bull or one of their primary rivals, Mercedes, Ferrari, or Aston Martin. Still, Gunther Steiner hasn't ruled out a move for Ricciardo. The Honey Badger continues to be of interest to Haas. Every team in the paddock is eager to speak with Danny following his year off. In the end, Danny might have a fantastic chance to eventually get behind the wheel of an F1 car. But do you think a Red Bull return is realistic enough? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons. Most importantly, don't forget to click the bell icons to be notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, feel free to leave a remark if you have any recommendations for videos. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks once again.